And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We are talking the 5 worst driver moves in at least modern Formula 1. So this was kind of inspired for what we've had, the craziest silly season all the way from the beginning of the year, with Lewis Hamilton announcing he's going to Ferrari, leaving Mercedes finally after many years and much success. Also, Carlos Sainz down the job centre, having to choose between Williams and Audi. At the time of recording this, what's he going to choose? I don't know. Will it be successful? Either could potentially be a risk. Esteban Ocon definitely going down the job centre. We may not even see him in Formula 1. What team could he go to? But I digress, because we are talking the 5 worst driver moves in Formula 1. And let's start with number 1. And it's none other than the blonde-haired beauty of 1997, Jacques Villeneuve. Okay, he won the championship in 1997. He continued with Williams in 1998. And after winning the championship, it was a win this year in 1998, but it was solid points. And, you know, he did score podiums. One highlight in particular was almost leading the Canadian Grand Prix, his home Grand Prix, in a Williams, as he tried to go around the outside, I think, of Giancarlo Fisichella, and he ended up going off into the first corner and having to carry on. But, to be fair, it was good. I mean, at Williams, it looked fairly solid, and had he stayed, the 99 season would have been okay. Ralf Schumacher ended up going there with Alex Zanardi. So what did Jacques Villeneuve do? Well, his best friend and manager, Craig Pollock, formed a Formula 1 team where Adrian Reynard, the head of the design department there, suggested that they may well be winning their first race. So Jacques Villeneuve was convinced to go to BAR, otherwise known as British American Racing, where he scored, he went from podium finisher to nil point in 1999. It was, to be fair, a fairly solid car. It had its flick of speed. It had the potential for points. It was just really unreliable. And it was Jacques Villeneuve and Ricardo Zonta in 1999. And that was kind of it for Jacques in terms of winning. He never won again. He did get the odd podium. And then he was joined by Jenson Button a few years later. Craig Pollock ended up leaving the team, and Jacques Villeneuve did too, outperformed by Jenson Button in the end, which was kind of like just a sad way to end his career. He did obviously drive for both Renault and the Sauber team, but he was never the same really after his first few years at British American Racing. He had a solid 2000 where he showed us he could still be the Jacques Villeneuve, but going to that team may well have been a mistake. Let's go on to number 2. And it's none other than the 1996 World Champion himself, Damon Hill. Yes, so winning the World Championship. In the process of winning that World Championship, about Hockenheim, he was told, no, you're going to be sacked from Williams. We don't want you anymore. We've signed Heinz-Harald Frentzen. In hindsight, as good as Frentzen is, that may have been a mistake from Williams. But then Damon Hill had nowhere to go because it was quite late in the season. There were rumours he was talking to Jordan, he was talking to McLaren. He said himself about McLaren that McLaren had asked him to almost prove himself all over again, offering a very low ball money offer, which he didn't accept. And then some people suggest maybe it was all about the money, maybe it was for the money. Paid a fairly handsome amount. Damon Hill ended up going to Arrows in 1997, achieving just 1 podium at that fantastic Hungarian Grand Prix in 97, where he could have won, save for the last lap where Jacques Villeneuve passed him, and he ended up getting 1 point, the first point for Arrows that year, at Silverstone, but that was only after he was absolutely lambasted by Tom Walkinshaw, his team bosses. Maybe not, he needs to push a bit more. And to be fair, after 1997, Damien then did go on to Jordan in 98, winning their first race at that legendary race now in Belgium at Spa. Next up then, we've got this man here, Giancarlo Fisichella. Yep, second in the Belgium Grand Prix in a Force India in 2009. Also, he had pole position at this Belgium Grand Prix in 2009. He was beaten by a certain laconic Finn. Yes, the man that does not say that much, but when he says something, everyone listens, Kimi Räikkönen. He ended up winning in the Ferrari by just 0.9 seconds. So here was this Force India, really fast, good speed, heading into Monza. but it was not to be for Giancarlo, because if you remember back in 2009, it was Felipe Massa at Hungary who had a big, ended up receiving a massive head injury that needed surgery, and he was out for the rest of the year. What happened was the brawn of Rubens Barrichello, something fell off his car and hit Felipe Massa in the head, albeit yes, he was wearing a helmet, and he pretty much was almost unconscious and just went straight off into the wall. And obviously he couldn't race for the rest of the year. And incidentally, this was the first mumblings of F1 needing some kind of extra head protection, which ultimately became the Halo. So Luca Badoer took over Felipe Massa's place and was, as Luca Badoer as you can, very, very average, a very solid test driver, but not particularly in the race. So Giancarlo Fisichella, he couldn't resist. Monza, Ferrari, 2009, coming off one of his best performances of his life in second in the unlikely Force India, and it was just 9th at Monza, out of the points, and out of the points quite a lot throughout the rest of the year. A very exceedingly average, I think, are the two words you can probably describe Fisichella's time at Ferrari, to the point where it ended his career. It ended his Formula One career with Ferrari, but what kind of like a sad way to end it in hindsight for what could have been. So this guy here, Jenson Button, he started in 2000 and everyone absolutely loved him. He ended up having to square off, I think, against Bruno Junqueira potentially for that Williams seat, pre-season going, and well, he won it. He ended up finishing 8th in the championship with 12 points. He ended up becoming the youngest at the time British driver to start in Formula One, and the youngest British point scorer. I think Ollie Behrman now has that record. But everyone was saying, this guy, he is it. Potential world champion. But the issue Williams had at the time, 3 did not go into 1 because they had a very fast Colombian that was over in America that they had the contract on, and that was Juan Pablo Montoya. So Juan Pablo Montoya, Jenson Button, Ralf Schumacher, they ended up choosing Montoya and Ralf Schumacher, and Jenson Button sadly had to go elsewhere. And where did Jenson Button go? It was Benetton, which are now the Alpine team, which were the former Renault team. This is a Benetton team that had won championships in 94-95, had won a race in 1996, but this is now 2001. Didn't have a very good car, but more importantly, he finished 17th in the championship with just 2 points, and he was absolutely trounced by his teammate. Not very good whatsoever. Poor Jenson Button. Really, really sad. Yeah, it nearly, I think, with Flavio Briatore having to go at him, it nearly ended his career, I think. But this move did potentially end this guy's career. Nigel Mansell winning in 1992 the championship, going to America for 1993 and 1994. But we had that tragic incident in 1994 where Ayrton Senna sadly had that crash and sadly passed away. Williams did have David Coulter, but they asked Nigel Mansell to come back, and come back he did at Magny-Cours. And yeah, he did okay. He was helping Damon Hill and giving him advice and helping Williams for the Constructors' Championship, getting poled in the last race in Adelaide, Australia for the Grand Prix there, winning it, probably though because we had a Schumacher-Damon Hill controversial collision, and then Nigel Mansell thinking he's going to stay with Williams. Sadly, he did not. They chose David Coulter, they chose youth, and then he ended up going to the McLaren team. Now the issue with this is, with Nigel Mansell at McLaren, it all looked really, really good. It was looking good, it was looking positive, but then the car was an absolute shambles. Nigel Mansell couldn't fit in the car for rounds 1 and 2. He did attend round 3 and 4, Imola and Spain, and then he had enough, no points, and a really sad way in the end to retire for his Formula One career. I mean, Adelaide, retiring at the Australian Grand Prix with a win would have been amazing. It was just kind of like sad. It was just really, really sad. So, if you like what you see, please give us a subscribe. That would be absolutely amazing. Would really, really appreciate that. Comment below. Let us know what you think. Who was the worst driver moves of Formula One, what you can remember. I mean, we've got Jacques Villeneuve. A bad driving move for Jacques Villeneuve, winning in 97, podiums in 98 for Williams, to average in 1999, as in an averagely 0 points is what he scored. Yeah, so from champion to podium to nil points. And Damon Hill, though, from champion in the Williams, from being sacked halfway through the year to arrows in 97, scoring that podium in Hungary and that 1 point at Silverstone. But no, that's not a World Championship season, is it? Giancarlo Fisichella second in Belgium in 2009 in the Force India, an unlikely Force India, and then the very next race going to Ferrari, finishing 9th at Monza, not getting a handle of the car, and that was the end of his Formula One career. Jenson Button, not quite the end of his career, the beginning of his career, going to Williams. 3-1 doesn't go. They chose Montoya over Jenson Button. He ended up going to Benetton, getting lambasted a bit by Flavio Briatore, dominated by Giancarlo Fisichella, finishing 17th with just 2 points that year. Not particularly great. And Nigel Mansell from doing very successful in the Williams to very averagely in the McLaren, winning the Adelaide Grand Prix and being on pole position, coming from a successful couple of seasons in America and a World Championship in 1992 to retirement ultimately in McLaren, just doing 2 races, rounds 3 and 4, Imola and Spain, and then retiring after scoring no points. Kind of sad. Yeah. I'm sorry, Nigel. I'm very sorry indeed. Anyway, this has been the Hot Lap. Thank you very much. Speak to you soon.